Can we go back to the beginning for a minute? Like, let's go back to you guys' origin story. Little girls growing up.
Oh, wow, that far back.
Yeah. Listen, childhood is one of my favorite topics, right? You know what I'm saying? Especially being a father now.
Therapy.
Like, listen, we getting real. We got to get to the origin of what replenish really is. You know what I'm saying? What's better way to do that than starting with little Deja and little Channelle. So when y'all think of again the origin being little girls, what some things stand out for y'all?
Well, you were born first.
Come on, big sis.
So we're 3.5 years apart.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, but y'all grew up together then.
We did.
This is the person that knows all of me. Right?
Okay, all right.
I don't know all of her. The 3 years I wasn't born.
Okay.
I didn't necessarily receive. But
Word.
she has been around me all of my life.
Right.
my
Right.
big
You don't know life without her.
No, I do
Right.
not.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it just you two? You guys have other siblings?
Yes, we have a stepsister through marriage, but yes, it's just
Okay.
us two.
Got it. So yeah, what's some standout things for you guys?
Standout things. I was a book. I loved books. I needed to create some safety and stability in my life, and I think I did that through school. I was probably more creative than I realized back then, but school gave me the stability that I needed to have structure. I needed something to attach to make me feel safe in a way in my body.
Chanel's always been a thoroughbred. Let me just chime in.
Okay, all right, okay, look.
Okay, she was born just like with this, huge. I don't know if it was a desire, but she just is a natural caretaker, caregiver, and highly intelligent. I think it's easier for us to talk about each other, and then we can branch off.
Okay.
Do you feel?
I feel good with that.
I like that.
Yeah.
So Deja, what do you remember about Channelle as a little girl being big sister? What were some standouts to you when you viewed your big sister? How did you see her?
She was the source of information. She had all the information.
I'm still that way. It's like I want to know it all.
This is good that you asked this because this is exactly what Replenish is, and this is how we developed our innate roles in the business. But
I'm the
Channelle,
data.
She's the database.
Okay.
She's the database of our entire family. Like literally, she just has the data, and she's loyal, super loyal. Yeah. Like I could do no wrong. She's like, no, you're fine. You're gonna be fine.
That's good. That's good.
Other things that you do, computers.
Yeah.
You're gonna always see her with a computer.
The electronic device.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But I still find time for my stillness. But I am the one that is connected to electronics. It stores my information, so I'm connected to that. I went on to college. I kind of took a traditional route. I was, I loved school, like I said, and so college was the next thing. And so I went to the Ohio State University. I thought I was going to go to medical school. I was pre-med, so I was like really sort of just like rigorous science, this kind of intensity. And I got feedback from that, that made me feel good. It was like, okay, I do this well. I'm making straight A's. I'm going to college. I'm getting these degrees. And then I didn't get into medical school, so that shifted a whole thing. Like I didn't hear no a lot in that respect.
Right.
And so that was sort of like my big sort of life moment where it was like, okay, well now what? And so it took me down another path. I was still connected to health and wellness and research and nonprofit work. But I needed that big no to sort of shake me up. Mm-hmm. And I spent most of my 20s dealing with my emotional side. I felt like I was so heavy on like this linear path that I didn't really tend to my emotional space. I didn't hold space for that for myself. I was just sort of a doer. That was sort of my role in the family, just kind of happened that way. I was sort of the responsible, I took responsibility. It came to me naturally, so I just sort of signed up for things like that.
It's okay.
Well, I didn't want to say that, but
At least
yeah,
little sis got
you
your
have
back.
these
At least
roles in the family, and
Yeah.
you sort of play them out, and it sort of made me feel safe to do that. And so, yeah, that carries out into our, adulthood.
I feel like Channelle has lived many lives in this one. Like literally, like from high school, she had a whole a whole person, a whole learning, and then she went to college, and then that was a whole, thing. I just feel like throughout your whole life, you really lived like tremendous lives inside one.
Thank you.
I don't know how to explain that.
It did feel like a lot. And then I didn't have children until I was about to turn 30. And so that also was a shift because I was living out west in LA working for a spa. Like I always knew I wanted to own a spa with our family. And Exhale is a national spa chain. And got pregnant out there and was like, okay, well, if I'm gonna move home, the only thing I want to do at home is to start a business with my mother and sister. And so that's what brought me back here. And so all my 30s was birthing children and birthing a business.
Okay.
And so lots of births. Yeah. So that's kind of in a nutshell.
All right, so tell us about little sister. What about Deja?
It's Rose though, because that's when you got a taste of like just life. Because I've been out here.
So Deja, she from birth, like I just felt this big energy from her since birth. Like I used to crawl into her crib when she was little because I would feel safe in her presence. She just had this big energy. She came with this wisdom from birth that knew more than me in a certain way. Like I was the book smart or whatever you want to call it, which doesn't matter now. But traditionally people like to say, well, But she like came with this other wisdom, and she's always been that way. And she. Growing up was always the one that was like out and about, like running the streets.
You was outside.
She was outside in the world. She was out in the world. I was a homebody. I was in the library, and she was like out in the world doing all kinds of stuff. I don't know, hanging with all kinds of people.
Okay.
And I would hear her stories when she would come home, but she was comfortable like that. She was comfortable moving in motion. Yeah. She also is a caretaker in a different way. She was like sort of the protector of our family. Like she would always make sure, no matter what, nobody's saying nothing about her sister, nobody's doing anything to her mother. She always had our backs in that way and would go to fight for us if needed, which is a big responsibility.
Thanks.
So thank you for that.
Thanks. I received that.
Creative. She would always have journals. She was always writing and drawing and you just always had this creativity, moving furniture around, creating a vibe.
Yeah.
She's got this energy that's just like in motion. That's how her energy is just like sort of swirling and in motion. That's how my experience of her. And she's still the same. And that's how she shows up in our business.
We ever really changed. We transform.
Yeah.
My inner child is my best friend. Like I love my inner child. Like, and there's days that the world doesn't nurture the inner child, mostly all the time.
Right.
Like, you have to really.
That's why I want y'all to talk about childhood.
Right.
We moved. I can't remember which one of y'all said, but about moving through the emotion, right? Like no regard for the emotion, just kind of just being a doer. That is. I resonate with that so much. We were talking about, when we seen some of the kids walking on the college campuses. Like I remember spending so much time on college campus, and I look back on it now, and I'm like. Yeah. And that shit was stupid.
I
could have not did college at all.
I hate to say that out loud around my kids sometimes because it's like, well, I know the world has this other pressure, but honestly, you might not even be ready for college, and it's a whole other life to learn.
And really, what I was really doing, like I was really going to school because I was really fearful of doing anything else, and really kind of stepping into my creative side and like doing some things to go out and kind of like buck the system and just kind of do things outside of the traditional norm, right? And now that I'm a father and a husband and things like that, I'm all for being a disruptor and doing things that feel internally pleasing, and things that resonate with you internally, So that's why I want y'all to talk about y'all childhood. That's why I got y'all going back.
I mean, this is our first time ever going back that far.
Yeah, it's kind of hard a little bit because it's like, okay, well, who am I? Who was I?
I mean, I didn't go to college, so I have that, that's on my resume. But I did go to life school.
Yeah.
Well, you highlight that. I think that it's something that we're proud of. You're proud of now. I think it was you held it as a stigma for a lot of your life, but now it's like something that you stand for.
And
like
all I had was my inner child. My inner child was the wise one. Actually, it was the one that reminded me, "Oh, you're good at this.
Yeah.
Like you know how to talk to people. I mean, there was a lot of times I had to prove myself. So in that, I stepped into the power of vulnerability. Now I don't do it so much anymore because I don't need to. I leaned on vulnerability because I was afraid of the rejection that I was going to naturally get for not going to college. Right? But now it's like okay, I don't need as much vulnerability. You know, I don't need to, you got to know when to pull a practice or a tool up, right? Like vulnerability is something that we can practice, and sometimes you need it and sometimes you don't.
Right.
Well, and I think you need it in safe spaces too. It's not for everyone.
Right, it's sacred.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sacred.
It totally is sacred. Yeah.